Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So I've been able to chat with a few folks who listen to the show, and many of them have told me they listen to this in the car with their teenagers or that their kids can actually hear this, which I think is super cool. And I wanted to dedicate an episode right around this time of year to specifically sort of speak to college and high school grads and their families to share some insights I've learned and some of the advice I would share with any type of, you know, person embarking on their career, their first career or higher education. There's a lot of struggle right now in what do I major in? What do I actually want to do? Who do I want to be when I grow up, right? And looking back, I think anyone listening to this can agree that the idea of us picking a college major and a career path at the age of 17 is effing ludicrous. And most people have no idea what they want to do or what they want to study, right? And a lot of people make this decision with incomplete information as to what this actually means. And unfortunately, a lot of people have come to realize that they haven't really used their college degrees. We've devalued the college degree. We've devalued higher education in the sense that it's not worth the tuition for the increased earning potential that it's promised in many cases. But number one, there's a way to overcome that. And number two, there's a sort of mentality that I was taught by my dad that drove pretty much all my decisions for the rest of my life and why I'm very happy with every decision I've made with regard to I'm so happy I chose my major. I'm so happy I chose my first career. I have zero regrets about that. And I'm in the best position possible to choose how I want to move forward because of those things. So, my best advice to anyone embarking on a new chapter, for anyone early in their career or pursuing higher education, my best advice is always to put yourself in the position where the decisions you're making today will buy you the most choices tomorrow. Because I'm telling you that things are going to happen that are out of your control. The world is going to change around you externally. Things are going to happen to your family members, to your friends, to you that you won't be able to foresee right now. And that's kind of the fun of it in this thing called life. Please do not stress over your first career move like it's a permanent choice, like it's a tattoo. Okay. Your resume is not a tattoo. You can absolutely evolve your passion, evolve your perspective, and you have no obligation to sit in an identity that you don't really connect to anymore. The best thing you can do is put yourself in a position to have more choices when those evolutions happen. Not if, but when. So, contextually, I was taught when I was very young, my dad pulled me aside when I had taken my accounting class. Some of you have heard this story. I took an accounting class in high school. I absolutely loved it. I wanted to be a Spanish teacher, or actually, I wanted to be a Disney animator was my first aspiration. I'm so glad that got interrupted. But what happened was my dad pulled me aside and he said, "Listen, if you can speak this language," and he was referring to the language of accounting and business. He said, "If you can speak this language, then you're not only going to be very successful, but you're going to be able to do a lot more things, Shan. This is a better superpower," is what he was trying to say, than Spanish, let's say. He goes, "You can learn Spanish. You'll use Spanish in so many different contexts of your life. You can find a way to infuse Spanish into any career. You can find a way to enjoy the art that you love to draw, the paintings you love to do, the sketches. You can find a way to do that. Absolutely. Do it for fun. He said, but when it comes to choosing your career path, this will give you the most options. And we don't expect you to decide tomorrow what you want to do with the rest of your life, but you could literally do anything with this accounting degree. And we think you should pursue it. And he couldn't be more right that when you have a degree in something like accounting, a specialty area that requires you to have a technical knowledge and ability unique over and above that of the average student in a special area. And by the way, you don't have to be a top performer. You just have to be super specialized. And I learned this really quickly that my fellow students from high school and college who are all AP class, super rock stars, like honor roll, all this stuff. And by the way, I was like a B plus A minus. I was like under the radar, good student, but like not recognized for it. And what I realized was the people who got the most accolades and recognition, I look now and many of them are, you know, they have great careers, but they're not any more special than mine. They're not any more special than anyone else's. And we get caught up in this idea that achievement equals potential. And it's true that you still have potential regardless of whatever trophies you have on your shelf. It's actually irrelevant. It's great to make you feel good and look good and to encourage you to achieve and learn and to develop work ethic and attitude. Those are all great byproducts of those things, trained to train you to do those things and to make you a better employee. But at the end of the day, there are some intangibles that you just can't learn in school. And the best thing you can do is position yourself well to be able to figure out what those are, to be able to leverage other skill sets, and to be able to, like I said, have more choices. So I'm going to cut to my career at the Big Four, which I don't regret for one single second, but I would not go back for one single second. I worked there for 7 years. I worked in audit, then I worked in advisory. And then when I left, if you've ever worked in a big accounting firm, if you're listening to this as an accountant, if you've ever worked in an accounting firm like this, they make you feel like you're jumping off of Mount Everest, off of a huge cliff. Like, oh my God, you're deciding to leave now. Like, this is when you're going to cash out, right? This is when you're going to leave and go into corporate. Good luck. You're not going to find the same caliber of people. You're not going to have the same opportunities as you did here. Good luck. They're not wrong in some regards, but they definitely overshoot how high that cliff is because you step down and you're like, oh, I make more money. It's a little bit easier, much more structured, and much more of a routine. This is nice. So I left the Big Four. I went to work for a consulting company. I quickly decided that it was more of the same stuff, so I pivoted. And I went to go work at a software company. And this was a really interesting part of my career. I went to work for the software company in client service professional services. And I loved it because it was a small business that was growing and I had a lot of say with the founders on how things were going, right? I was one of the senior members of the team in the professional services group. I then was transitioned over to technical sales because I was doing sales demos and succeeding at selling our product and articulating it to people. I even got to speak at conferences. And I realized that, wow, like accounting degree, I would have never like told little 17-year-old Shannon that she was going to end up in sales. Like, wow, what a contrast. Did not expect that at all. And then I went from there to internal auditing because I needed a job locally where my husband lived because I was moving in with him. And while I was at that job, I kind of realized, I think I had this kind of epiphany as I was transitioning from job to job. And I said, wait, I have process experience. I have technical accounting experience. I have banking and asset management experience. I have software experience, SaaS company. I have sales experience. I have all of these things, speaking experience. And I've racked up all these kind of invisible merit badges besides accountant, besides CPA. I racked up all these sort of merit badges of all these things I learned along the way. And I was like, damn, I can use a lot of these skills in a lot of different areas. And I looked around and I was like, I can literally do whatever I want to do here. And that was actually my dad's parting advice to me when he died. I told him I was miserable working at the firm, and he's like, do whatever the F you want. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you've been telling me what to do my whole career. You've been advising me. You've been telling me the best thing I should do. And he's like, I'm done. I'm done telling you what to do because you've done all of it. And now, exactly where I wanted you to be, you are in the best position possible to decide to do whatever the F you want. And I was like, wow, okay. I basically hit this crossroads of my career and I could go in any direction I wanted to. But here's the thing I want you to take away from this: the reason why, or because I chose the path I did, because I chose to do accounting as my major. And maybe for you, this is engineering or this is law or this is something else, right? Because I chose that area of study way back when, and I chose my first career, because of that, I had an abundance of paths in front of me. I had all these different options of places I could go. I was not confined to a certain type of path. I was not restricted. I was not limited. I got to my late 20s, early 30s when my life had completely changed. My dad had passed away. I was married. I was living in a different state. I So much had changed. So much had changed. I had a whole different set of passions. I had a whole different aspiration for myself. I had unlocked starting my new business. I wanted to grow that. And I became a different person. I don't recognize the person I was in my early 20s. I don't. You would not recognize that girl. She's not Shannon. But the choices she made, the checks she wrote are what Shannon today is paying, right? Think of it that way. You're writing checks for your future self to pay. Or you could also be writing checks for your future self to cash. And in this case, I was cashing these checks of what I was doing in my 20s. And I would encourage you, if you're in that area of your life where you're trying to decide what to do next, this isn't to impose pressure on you to make decisions that will alter your reality for the rest of your life. What I'm saying is that one next step, that one next move, that one next thing you're going to do is always the right thing. As long as that is the choice that gives you the most choices out of it. The one thing, that one step forward you can make that will open up paths to walk down in the future. If you, let's say you study something really narrow, really specific, and then you decide you don't want to do it anymore, I don't want you to waste that degree. I know you're going to walk away with a lot more than a degree from your experience, but I've seen too many people in my generation, you know, squander that because they thought they wanted something and then they didn't. And if you're not sure, which I don't expect you to be, about what you want to do, all I can say is just buy the choices. Buy the choices. If nothing else, don't buy the career, buy the choices that you're going to have. Make that best decision for yourself that will afford you the most choices later, because people will envy the amount of choices you have in front of you when it really matters. So, if there's anything else I can leave you with, it is, don't put that pressure on yourself to decide now how the rest of your life is going to go. Just put yourself in the position to be able to decide for yourself and to move forward as quickly as possible when the time comes. All right? I hope you enjoyed this bit of advice from me. And best of luck if you are in this group that is graduating or moving forward in their careers. If you're approaching a promotion or considering a transition in or out of a career, this also applies to you as well. Hopefully, this affords you some direction in where you're headed next. Thank you so much for listening. Hey there, are you looking for more tax and accounting help for your small business, but tired of the confusing jargon or feeling judged for your questions? This is exactly why we created a completely free Keep What You Earn community centered around this podcast. This community is a space to ask questions, hop on our monthly connection calls, and explore more information about our episodes and our guests. Click on the link in the show notes to join us in this month's call to chat with me and our other guest experts. See you there. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.